All right, we will get started with our study session on Richfield University. And do I kick it straight to Neil or to you, City Manager Rodriguez? Okay, I will give it to Neil from here.
Actually, can I just say one thing? This, as you can see, Neil's nameplate here is actually not correct. And Neil now has the position of Communications and Engagement Manager.
Congratulations.
So he has been promoted, and we've expanded all the wonderful things that will be falling under his purview. So with that,
Congrats, Neil. We are super excited.
One of the things that David would do instead of going and printing a new one is just kind of, scratching that off and
To
just,
save money, huh?
yeah.
Yeah.
He was so cheap.
We're,
Wouldn't offend me to do that. Yeah, it's kind of like a badge of honor. Well, thank you guys. Thank you very much, Pam. Well, we're going to be, trying to expand. I know that engagement, which is what we'll be talking about today, but I know that engagement is a core value of the council. It's a core value of mine personally, and what I believe it goes hand in hand with communications. So I'm looking forward to a lot more engagement opportunities, racking your guys' brains of figuring out where you think the needs are, and really trying to come up with some tactics that really engage, especially our underserved communities, because, they are equally as important to this community as the people that we see at our council meetings or our events on a regular basis. So I'll be reaching out to you guys, and I'll be reaching out to other people that I know in the community, and I'll be taking some things that I know that, would be helpful and kind of putting a nice little kind of toolkit together for all of us. But the reason we're here tonight, you guys all know me pretty well, so we can be pretty fast and loose with this. You can ask me questions throughout.
But we don't know you as a manager.
Yeah, well,
that's true.
same stuff, different day. But all right, we're talking about Richfield University. That's the name we're going with now. None of this in the presentation. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, but, I thought that was tentative.
It is. Everything actually in this presentation is relatively tentative.
This is my suggestion, because, a couple of people I talked to and shared that with, they don't understand what the university part is. Oh, sorry. So anyway, I was thinking maybe call it Richfield Local Government Academy, and that way we could say Richfield LGA.
Solid. Yeah, we can call it really anything. We've played around with the Richfield Institute. We, a lot of places have found it successful, of kind of throwing something kind of pithy or fun in there for the most part.
Yeah.
So like I was originally going to stylize it as something like Richfield U. Personally, I wanted something with much more of an alliteration, but really if you look for synonyms for schools and things of that nature, schools, academies, institutes, there's no good R words, which is kind of sad. Trust me. The amount of time I spent on it was sad.
I think LGA is real direct.
Yeah.
And clean.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
That's what we're here for, is you guys giving me feedback on this and letting me know what you thought. Maybe we don't do it. Maybe it's a terrible idea.
I like the idea. I like Councilmember Garcia's suggestion. And speaking of fun, there are other politicians that have used the university idea, and it might sit crossly in some people's minds. Thank you. Again, Councilmember Garcia makes everything better that she touches.
Doing the best, but somebody's got to be a mother around here.
So we'll start here. We'll talk about the goals. The goals were to give residents with deeper understanding about our city services. We hear it. I hear it. I know that as council members, you guys hear it as well. Is that residents know that we do stuff, but they don't really know who handles specific services, and also really to promote what we're doing. The different departments can utilize this for them really what they want. I would encourage them to specifically focus most of their time on their basic services, but they should also take probably 25% of it of picking 2 or 3 things they really want to toot their horn about and really promote the programs that are really meeting the needs of Richfield residents. And in the end, also build these relationships. Now, something like this, you're doing this on a much smaller scale. Now, when we can use, social media and other communication tools to reach a larger audience. But this is a different type of relationship you're building. You're giving people really a look under the hood. And that's what this is for. And people to ask questions. This isn't just we're going to lecture. It's if you have questions about why, for example, we're plowing Lyndale Avenue 14 times during a snow event and it takes us a while to get to like Stevens, they can ask questions like that because people feel that maybe their street is more important, and we can get into topics like that and much deeper than even that. And then, in the end, really have a call to action, because chances are a lot of people going through this are already going to be pretty supportive of the city. And then, when we have future events like PennFest or 4th of July, or any really type of volunteering activity or commissions, we can leverage this because these individuals will have their contact information and say, hey, former Richfield Local Government Academy graduates, this is coming or that's coming. We're not going to overburden them, and it will take several sessions to really kind of get a critical mass of people. But these are people that already understand the services, and hopefully if they hear somebody at Houlihan's or their neighbor complaining that the city's not doing this, that, or the other thing correctly, they learned that at Richfield, at the Citizens Academy, and they can maybe either steer them in the right direction or say, hey, maybe you're off base just a tad. So a lot of research did go into this. I reviewed 53 similar Citizens Academies, both for city, county, police, and sheriffs. And people have been using these. Like, the Citizens Academy isn't a new thing. They've been used with varying successes over time. But my hope was to say, okay, let's figure out what kind of works the best. How many sessions? How long are the sessions? And I was really hoping that, essentially we add them all up, divide by ever how many, and would kind of come up with a nice average. The sad thing is, it is a rough shot experience. It is the wild, wild west out there when it comes to Citizens Academies. Some were as short as 4 weeks. Some were as many as 15 weeks. That's a huge gap. Most all of them kind of lean in the middle somewhere. And then same with session length. One were 90 minutes, a couple were 90 minutes. Some, which is the same as the 15-week one, would bring people in on the weekends on a Saturday and do 9 hours straight.
Wow.
Personally, I'm just saying my personal experience and thoughts, that would probably not be the way to retain students very well as really provide a quality experience where they can, get enough information, draw enough information, and also utilize it without being overly burdened with stuff. I've also had the experience of going through two myself. I went through Hennepin counties back when I worked there. And I've also went through the city of Hopkins's because I lived there. And both of them are solid. I thought, overall that Hennepin counties needed to be shortened in certain areas. And I thought on the other end, the city of Hopkins's maybe was on the other end of that, where they really hammered you through it. And it was really quick and it was fast and dirty. I liked it. I learned a lot about the city that I live in, but it may have been just a little bit too quick for my taste. And then we've also had some conversations. Richfield Police Department has a Citizens Academy that is pretty popular. I know they've retooled it a couple times in its history. But I can draw on my personal experience from two of those in conversation that I had with others. So what I really...
Because I went through the Hennepin County Citizens Academy, and then I've been through the Police Academy here too. So, I thought Hennepin County was really well done.
I would agree, and I think I'm drawing a lot of my inspiration from that one. I would say maybe just not make it be 2.5 hours a session, which I thought was a little long, because I know that usually when that last hour kind of came through, last half hour to an hour, I was looking more at my watch than paying attention to what was going on. Maybe that's more about my attention span than anything, but I think that going a little bit shorter than that was kind of what I was looking at when I was talking about inspiration. And one of the things that we're taking too goes right into format. They, for the most part, most of their sessions and a lot of sessions that I saw, kind of break it up into 2-part series. You kind of have your lecture classroom experience where they run through, if it's the police department, this is all the things the police department does. These are some of our main programs. Give people a break, let people go to the bathroom, grab a snack, grab some water, stretch their legs, and then give them some sort of interactive experience. Essentially, it's cutting it down in the middle, but we're going to want it to meet the needs of the individual departments. We have some departments that have a lot more to them. And we'll get into this a little bit, but you have like community development. Community development, I say all the time, their nuances have nuances. So you can't just say, oh, we're gonna do community development in 30 minutes. It's next to impossible. They'll need a little bit more time. Whereas when I was meeting with fire. And I said, Wayne, you can have, 45 minutes to an hour. He's like, I can do fire in about 25. I'm like, let's maybe go just a tad longer. So really making sure that they have, but really the focus part is first half is kind of the classroom piece. Second half is some sort of interactive experience, whether it's a tour or something like a tour that, would be able to showcase some maybe of our equipment or facilities that we have.
Neil, will people be able to, the directors be able to give experiences then of some of the problems that have come up in their job?
Yeah, I
'cause that's
believe.
good.
Yeah, I believe they're going to be given a lot of freedom to
Good.
come up with their solutions, their presentations.
Okay,
I'm just I'm saying I am there to help them in any way, shape, or form.
okay,
Maybe provide some guidance, like get your PowerPoints ready and things of that
Sure.
nature.
Okay.
But
No,
they're
I
really
just-
providing them with a lot of opportunity. I'm going to give them the general, like my request would be, explain what you guys do, kind of at that 30,000 foot level. But bring your own personality and experiences to it, because a lot of our directors, which most of them would be giving the classroom piece of this, maybe with assistance from some of their staff members. But bring it. Most of them have risen through the ranks at Richfield. Explain how things were. Explain, what makes your department unique compared to some of our neighbors or some of our counterparts throughout the Twin Cities Metro. So the way we'd be looking at is doing this in 6 sessions. It's pretty doable. The first 5 aren't going to be a problem. We'll be a little bit rushed, maybe a little bit on session 6 because we're cramming a lot of things in there. But at the same time, a lot of them aren't ones that take half hour, 45 minutes, and we're getting rid of the experiential piece on number 6. It will be much more of the classroom learning piece, but also a graduation element to it, which, I'd say that's interactive enough as well. Plus, we're going on a variety of topics, so it's not like we're sitting and talking about one thing for 90 minutes. It's, going kind of all over the place as we need to. So the first week, what we would do is it would be primarily focused on fire, but there'd be a nice welcome by the city manager. And an overview of kind of what everyone's going to get into. But once that happens, we jump right into fire. And as I said, Wayne, so I should have said this. I'll back up for 1 second. So I actually talked to all the directors before I talked to you guys. I didn't want to come in and say, we should do this. And then all the directors said, this is a terrible idea and we can't do this. Or this is too much work on my staff or anything like that. Plus, I wanted to make sure that the template that I went through, I kind of did what you'll see is about 75 to 80% of my original proposal, but I brought it to each of the directors and they provided feedback, as well as a few other people about where they thought it would best meet their needs. So Wayne, as I said, told me, he goes, I don't need 45 minutes to explain what we do with fire. We go on medicals, we go on fire, we do a lot of public ed, but so he's gonna do the fire department, but their big thing that they're doing the past 18 months or so has been focusing on this hands-only CPR thing. Now, they can't teach everybody perfect hands-only CPR in about 10 minutes. But at the same time, they can give people just the necessary basic tools where if they find themselves in a situation, are they going to do the best hands-only CPR? They are absolutely certainly not going to do the best hands-only CPR. But they're going to do much better than if they did not have like a 10-minute kind of go through. Then after that, they get a tour of the fire station, a lot of selfies in fire trucks, get to ask the firefighters on duty a bunch of questions. I would imagine everybody is relatively happy. We get pictures of fire trucks and smiling residents on social media, and it's a good experience overall. Second week, we're going to Public Works. Public Works it's going to be a really good one. We're taking it almost up a notch from fire, where they learn about Public Works, kind of the vast services they have, and they'll get a quick tour of the building. But the nicest part's going to be so what we're going to do, stealing this 100% from Hennepin counties, is we're going to get easels and we're going to put them next to some of the various equipments in the equipment bay, clean it up, everything, explain like, this is a front end loader. As someone that has called things the wrong thing on social media more than twice since I've been here, but it can explain, hey, this is what it's used for. Have some of the operators ask questions. Once again, people can get in the trucks, take selfies by them, lay next to a plow to see how long it is, whatever you're really feeling in the mood for at the time. And that's kind of the Public Works experience. We're talking about potentially in the future, alternating, like if this would be a multi-year or even every other year, because Public Works would also like to focus more a little bit on the water plant too. But then if I'm giving 2 sessions for Public Works, it starts getting a little dicey then, because then, why don't I get 2 sessions as police, or why don't, we could do investigations one night. No one's really complained on it. I just want to kind of take care of that on the front end as opposed to on the back end. We're going to be encouraging people. We're going to probably open up once this is all done, maybe 2-3 weeks after the academy's over with. If people want to sign up for a free water plant tour, they can go do that on a separate occasion, because we still would like to focus on the great water plant that we have,
Good idea.
but just not saying, we're going to do 2 weeks of Public Works, just to try to keep it fair for everybody and equitable. Also, if you've been noticing too, the locations are going to change, but so people can experience the individual places. Community development is probably my favorite, just because it's a little more challenging. They don't really have anything. We can't bring them to the Chamberlain and to like the Havenwood and some of their more recent projects, because it would be a logistical nightmare. So really what we're thinking about doing is they're getting the longest presentation piece of it. Probably going to take close to an hour, because John and some of his housing folks, they're going to try to run people through as many of those in our social services programs as they can in the time allotted. But then what we're going to do is we're going to have it over there in Heredia, and then we're going to bring everybody. This room's going to be cleared out, and it's going to be kind of similar to how we were doing Public Works, where we're going to have easels with pictures of either recently completed or in process completed projects, representative from those projects, or staff members on hand to answer questions. It's like a not so virtual tour kind of deal where, hey, why is this a good project? Different things like that. So it should be a pretty good experience. It's kind of meeting people where they're at here wise, and I think it'll turn out pretty well. We're going to learn a lot from it. I definitely think it's a good idea in theory. We'll see if it's a good idea in practice, but we're going to learn a lot throughout this entire process. If we're finding out something doesn't work in the first couple sessions, we can make tweaks for the latter sessions. In the end, we're going to be surveying people after each session. We're going to be surveying people after the end of it, because we're really going to say if people like this, which fingers crossed, I hope they do, we're going to try to provide the best Citizen Academy experience that we can. And the best way to do that is by asking people what they liked and what they didn't like. So short surveys, get feedback from them, just trying to do our best to provide the best product possible.
Excuse me. Now, I forgot my one question, but, are we going to provide written material for them?
Yep, they will get, it's a little bit later on, but they'll get 1-pagers, kind of a brief, like, hey, this is whatever department you're seeing with some contact info. But also we'll provide them with the presentations that they get, both
okay,
electronically. If they want them hard copy, we'll give it to them. But, we're trying to be as green as possible. So we will email it all to them before and after, so they can review, if they want to review ahead of time and come with questions and things of that nature. We will provide them, and anything else, within reason that they would want supplementary for it.
Now, have you settled on a number?
Either 20 or 25 for capacity from different rooms and stuff like that is we're going to probably go in that range. I don't think it'd be any higher than 25.
Well, I can guarantee you, once you do the first one, word will spread, word of mouth.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about
Because
people
these are
signing
really
up.
interesting. I always find them fascinating.
You should sign up.
Yeah.
Be my first person.
Absolutely, yeah.
So the third one, and this we're going to do recreation and liquor together. Talking with Bill, he wants to give a kind of a quick overview, but mainly focus on the parks and profit piece, about the relationship between rec services. That's why we thought it was most appropriate to do it with rec
Don't
services.
invite him if he's not bringing any goodies.
We'll have to think about that one.
Okay, good.
But noted. But we're going to break rec up into more of the rec activity piece of it, and we're going to do Wood Lake a little bit separately. The great thing with Amy Markle is that she can speak to both of them very well, but also we could bring Karen in if she want to talk about Wood Lake. It's up for a lot of options, but they'll run through those specific pieces for presentations. And then I forget what my original idea was, but I don't think it was very good. But Amy said that maybe do, like, if we hosted at Wood Lake Nature, we could do a short kind of short nighttime hike. People that haven't experienced the nature center can kind of see some cool, especially some cool wildlife at night. So kind of a nice experience. Police, theirs will be a very, very, very truncated version of their police academy. We won't be, putting people in handcuffs and won't be putting, showing shooting ranges and stuff. They will walk through all that stuff. They can sit in cars and different things like that. But Jay apparently has his presentation all ready to go because he's been giving that presentation all over Richfield for quite some time. And then they just tour the department. Chances are Lieutenant Brad Drano will be one of the tour guides because I requested it, and we'll see who else. But it will be the best of the best that are just super social and just really show all sides of the Richfield Police Department are great, but really just the good community and policing side of the department. The last session, which will be session 6, this is a really good one, I think, especially to end on. So we kind of can go over City Government 101. A lot of people get confused about what's the federal, what's the state, what's the city, and then once you get to the city, like where everything kind of falls in, and kind of do a nice little presentation on that. And then Pam will have the difficulty of more than likely doing administrative services in about 15 minutes. So about 19 separate smaller areas. But I think she can handle it. Then we'll bring in one of the questions you guys get a lot is the budget. Chris Regis can do a high level budget in about 20 minutes, he said. We might have to tweak that a little bit. He says that he's pretty sure that he can kind of explain what's the calendar for the budget like. What do we do to make sure that, we keep any increases relatively affordable? What's been the past kind of goal for those types of things? And even maybe breaking in a little bit of some of that TIF stuff where, hey, they're coming. Some of this relief is coming. And then the last piece is, it said one of the big things is for this project is getting people involved. Having a call to action there, presenting, I know Jared does a great job when commission members are not selected, sending out, we have 85 opportunities to also volunteer and get involved in the city. Providing something like that to them, also maybe having a couple examples of bringing people in as well and maybe talking about that. Then getting a break and then doing a quick graduation piece. Either, the mayor or another council member can give a graduation, take pictures, give them a certificate because they are, or a diploma because they are graduating from this very prestigious academy. And, just kind of that's it in a nutshell. But they said that they can take pictures, they get their certificate. We'll give them a full packet of all their one-pagers that they want that we've sent them to them ahead of time. Give them, tell them where they can get their PowerPoints, all that kind of stuff. And then the last piece, which I kind of like, is we'll get them all T-shirts where, kind of this is because we're creating essentially a small ambassador program here and, put the Richfield logo on it and put, maybe the word ambassador on the back of it. And just, so if they're out at public events or something like that, they can wear their shirts with pride and they can tell people what, how are you a Richfield ambassador? And, as I said, get that call to action. I think that a lot of people really stressing the people that are presenting that day is stressing, get involved. You can, every department has ways you can get involved. A lot of non-government entities have ways for you to get involved. And that's really just hitting that home over and over again. The proposed dates ahead of time right now are the last 2 weeks in September and then the first 4 weeks in October. Originally, we were going to host this on Wednesdays. And thankfully, Councilman Whalen explained to me that some people go to church on Wednesday nights. I blame my Catholic upbringing for not knowing that. So we moved them to Thursdays, and we were going to start a week earlier, but Richfield's Citizens Police Academy starts a week earlier, and we were going to have some issues with spaces and everything like that. So we decided to go a week later because I didn't really want to go. And I think that the subsequent Thursday would have been Halloween, and I don't want to put people in that. Scheduling stuff is tough. Your guys' meetings are on Tuesdays, other meetings are on Mondays. No one wants to go to it on Fridays. So as of right now, I said these are nothing set in stone, but what we're looking at is doing it those Thursdays of the month. And I think that we can kind of thread the needle a little bit to make it all work. But we can, I said there's a bunch of flexibility here and there. I'm just a little worried about letting the weather get too Minnesota-y for if we do it much later.
Could be 80 degrees, could be snowing.
Yeah.
Right? On every single one of those dates. So you just don't know. But I think that, it's kind of a nice, and I think that if it's not to overcommit, but I think if it goes well, we would consider having maybe a spring session as well. And if the people that didn't get in to the first one would give them the first crack at it. Because I don't personally think that it's going to be hard. I'd probably take bets if anyone wants to take it that it wouldn't be more than like 3, 4, or 5 days before we fill all the sessions for something like this. Because it seems like there's a lot of interest in something like this out in the community, and I think it will go pretty quick. So
4 days, the under over manager.
that would probably be about it if I had to set it. So that's all my stuff. Feel free to ask any questions.
Do you have like an age limit? Like, are you gonna say 15, 16 and above, or?
It's a good question. That one has not been brought up yet. Dang it! I thought of everything. I would probably put it about the same level, the same age as commissions, which I think is 15. Is it 15 or 16, Jared, for youth commissioners? 15, 16. Yeah, do you have a suggestion?
I thought it'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would it be possible to do a 15, but evaluate on a case by case basis? There are just some real nerds out there. God bless them. We want to bring them in. If they're 12 and they just love the city, you
No,
know, that
absolutely.
they-
Yeah, I think
I
there's.
use that term affectionately.
Yes. No, I don't have anyone that wants to learn about the city. I'm open to it.
Great.
I don't think there will be a mass,
No.
request for a bunch of preteens to jump on board. But if someone, I've met several of our youth commissioners that probably know, for the
sure.
longest time knew more about like transportation policy and stuff than I still do to this day. So if people are interested, want to get involved, I said, I don't think that they will take anything away from the experience as long as they can sit relatively quietly for, 45 minutes straight. I'm good to go.
For a project like this, I know we've talked about this a little bit, but for community engagement opportunities, it's cost prohibitive to provide simultaneous translation for these events. But this could be a good event to try and engage a volunteer community that might be interested in providing some translation service or not translation, excuse me, interpretation services. I think it'd be administratively burdensome, but it would be a shame if we didn't include, as much of our community as we could.
We can absolutely look into that.
Councilmember Whalen.
Yeah, two quick things. The first one, we had talked about this the first time you had told me about this idea. Would acknowledging that there's a lot to fit into session 6, just clarifying, would that city government 101 time would that include kind of a breakdown of like the commissions and what they do and kind of how, I guess the thing that I would like to see that it seems like we get a lot of questions from residents about, or a lot of confusion from residents about, quite frankly, is like any given decision that the city makes, kind of how does that work its way through the process? And so I think even if it is like a slide that gets a minute or two, having an example like this permit first went to the planning commission and first went to staff and then to I don't know what the example is, but I think something like that would be really helpful.
Yep. And that City 101 I should have done a better job explaining, was because of our meeting.
Okay.
That was
Okay.
that. No, but I will make sure whoever gives that piece that will be included in it. Kind of like how a bill becomes a law, but citywide, essentially.
Yeah.
How a complaint
Awesome.
becomes an ordinance.
Yeah.
Doesn't have quite the ring to it, but I like it.
And I forgot my second question, so we'll come back.
It's all right.
Well, then we want to also why we have to obey ordinances. Like when you want to build a garage, for example.
Good example.
That has never
Yeah.
happened before. So I wrote a few comments down. This is super exciting. I can't wait for this. I think our community is ready for this. So I just wrote a few notes. So I think, in that beginning piece, it's a way to introduce ourselves. Who are we as the city of Richfield? So talk about our values, meet us in person. And then also, who are we as a community? Who is the community of Richfield? So I just think that's a great opportunity to tell our story proactively and positively, and kind of reiterate and reinforce some of those positive messages about who we are. Why are we doing this? So again, that could be in the beginning. You know, we think it's extremely important to have informed and engaged residents involved in, you know, their local government and making this community an amazing place to live. We want to support, as a local government, proactive engagement from the city to our residents. And we also see this as a way to improve. Also, we're going to hear from you, hear what your questions are, get feedback. And then, you know, we also hope that the folks who are interested or participate in this become advocates for our city, and leaders in ways that maybe they haven't been. So just
Participants.
and participants. So again, really that narrative piece, why, and using that opportunity. And then, you know, this is just a random thought, but I thought, what if each of these sessions was presented through the lens of our city values? So accountability. So what is community development accountable for? So that's where we talk about the what, or the police. What are we accountable for? Leading the way. That's where we can talk about some really cool, innovative things each department's doing. Community centered. How do we participate out in the community? Or how do we have programs or services that support that community building? And then celebrating diversity. What efforts or what lens do we have that's focusing on equity? So I just thought that might be a nice framework for each department to talk about, so that it's not just focused on the what of each department. And then another thing that I thought is, could each department say, here's the most common questions we get from residents, or here's how residents can navigate or interact with this department. If you see, you know, something, if your neighbor's grass is tall, we get a lot of calls around that, or this or that. So it's kind of like a little chance to bust myths and to let people know, when this kind of stuff comes up, you can call us and ask. And just kind of help with those most common things that each department experiences. I agree with Councilmember Whalen on the governance and council piece, and just helping folks understand, what does the city governance look like? How are decisions made? How do you participate in that? Explaining the open forum. Our stuff is online. You can come to, here's where you find out what the topics are of study sessions. In the budget, again, this is a lot of stuff, so it's just take what you can and what you're interested in. Taxes, is there like a little how taxes work? And let's break down, Steve always did a great job of getting someone's tax statement. Let's start here, and we'll talk about taxes, and maybe we say, I don't know if we want to do this. Bring in your tax,
Oh gosh.
your county tax statement. We're going to break it down and what it means. So those were just a few things that I had. And then lastly, I actually just had a young woman, and Pam, you might remember her, Estefania Chavez. She was a young high schooler that was really involved in Richfield on a lot of things. I think she was in the PMAC and other things. But she just asked me last week, what happened to the Richfield Ambassador Program? So she was a youth ambassador. She said there was scholarship money attached to it for the youth that were involved. And I remember that was maybe in like 2012 or something. I remember her being an ambassador. So that was just we had something, and that's how I met her.
It was like our pageant, and then it became.
And so it wasn't the city.
Oh, okay.
It was the organization that did those like Red, White, and Blue.
Got it.
Also, as a component of the 4th of July celebration, there was the ambassador, they
Got
had
it.
ambassadors, and they had a program for them.
Okay.
every
Oh,
year.
okay.
But they would come here as one of the things that they did. They'd come. Sorry. They came here to visit with us to learn about local government.
Okay, so it wasn't our thing. She
it
just asked
wasn't
me
our-
about that, and
yeah.
I kind of recollected it, but I didn't remember much.
I don't remember who sponsored it.
I can't remember off the top of my head either. But it was, and then they were acknowledged during the 4th of July events.
But now that has gone away.
Yes, for the past several years, yeah.
Yeah, Pride doesn't count. Pride doesn't count for much, but I've never heard of it. But I've only been here since 2017, so I'm not 100% sure about it.
Well, some people called it a pageant. Yeah. And I know at one time, it got to the point where you'd have people say, why didn't you choose my granddaughter or whatever, so it got a little petty later.
I thought of my one question and then just one follow-up. One thing I've seen other cities do that could be a simple way to sort of address that tax thing without getting too in the weeds with specific questions, is I've seen a visual, and I don't know if we've ever done this or not, but where you literally you turn $1 into its own sort of like pie chart. You like split it up and say how many cents of your taxes go toward each thing. Especially if we already have that, I think throwing that in there would be a great way to address that. But my other question,
I just love that for all kinds of uses, but we can make that happen.
okay,
I can
Great
Photoshop.
idea.
I can cut $1 up left and right.
well, don't actually cut up a real dollar. 'Cause then,
The internet.
Great idea.
To Edwina's comment earlier, I was partially also thinking like, I sort of want to sign up for this and come, but I'm realizing, like you said, I think this is going to fill up really fast. And I think, and I don't know that we need to like set parameters around this or something, but I am aware of the fact that we could get 25 like former council and commission members signing up who already know a lot of this stuff, but are just excited about the idea and want to be a part of it. So I guess I'm wondering, and maybe if we have a waiting list of 75 people, maybe then we just start talking to those folks and say like, hey, maybe you could open up the spot for someone new. But have we thought about that? It seems like there's going to be a much higher demand than space.
We've been struggling a little bit with that because I can't, open unless I do every single session in the city council chambers. And I think it then takes away some of the intimacy that you're going to want to do. Because if you want to build that relationship, you want to, if someone's really just jazzed about, backhoes, you want to be able to go up to Kristen Asher and talk to her for 20 minutes afterwards about, can I sit in it? Can I what's this better compared to the model, blah, blah, blah. Like those types of interactions are priceless for us. Those micro interactions are just such a boon for the city. I'm not going to commit to this, but I would say if I have a waiting list of 75 people, I think that there's a real strong conversation to have to say, until this gets down to a reasonable amount of people, do we go, maybe take a month off, do another session, and kind of bring people through, because I don't want to do a disservice to them. And I also don't want to do what they did in Hopkins, where, once again, great city, love living there, if any of them will ever listen to this. But they came back because they had a very large amount of people that wanted to go through theirs. And they said, oh, give us like 3 reasons why you want to do it, and we'll pick the ones with the best answers. I don't want to do that. I want to say, if you want to get involved and take advantage of this, whether you're like a government wonk or you're, know next to nothing about the government and think that we're maybe there to secretly take your money and waste it or something. I want someone to learn about what Richfield is and hopefully win over some hearts and minds. So I think if we have a huge waiting list, we're going to have to make some decisions. I can't commit to this. I'd have to have conversations with Katie and Pam and the directors as well. But for surely, at minimum, would probably try to do this twice a year, a spring and a fall session, kind of working up the opposite backwards from Labor Day, where we'd finish a week or 2 before then, and making it so then once again, we can take advantage of the nicer-ish weather when it comes to April and May. But that would be, I said, off the top of my head what I'm thinking. But if I do have like 100 people that want to do it, I don't know. I guess we just take every other month, we start running them concurrently or something like that. But I think that, and the thing too is when it comes to kind of building this critical, I keep saying like this ambassador program, I don't want to be negative, but I don't think it really starts to really work and become effective for the city till we get several iterations through this program. Because then we're leaning on like a group of 20 people, 25 people over and over again. I won't imagine you're really getting to that critical mass of where you might be able to draw from these people more regularly until you probably go through 3 to 4 sessions. And that's just the way it is. But I still think you can ask them and everything like that, because there's a good chance that, from my experiences at least, these people want to get involved. They really, really do. And especially if the city is like personally asking them, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, we got this coming up, would love you could volunteer at it. People are like, oh my gosh, the city's like interacting with me in a way that isn't, please pay my water bill.
Yeah.
I think it's a good way to start.
But I think Ben's got a good point, because there's some like former commissioners that are out there, and, this should be kind of encouraged for somebody that's a neophyte. But why don't we do it first come, first serve?
That's what I was planning on doing it, but if there would see, because I don't know, I'd have to lean on Pam for this one probably, but I don't know a lot of, if it's, before Pat Elliott, I probably don't know who they are. And if we were seeing that like a lot of them are on there, I think we could probably have some conversations with them. But yeah, I'm much more of a first come, first serve. If they see it the first day and want to do it, I think that they should have the same right as anybody else, even though they wouldn't do them near the benefit.
And I would suggest 20 as opposed to 25,
Okay.
just to keep it, just to test the waters. And
Yep.
if you want to increase it to 25 the next time, you can.
I like the smaller number myself. It's that
More
weighing
intimate.
of, getting people that want to do it through. But I think 20 would be I think it's a good number. I think and it makes it a lot easier on our spaces. Those 5 people make a big difference.
And Mike Supple should come.
He doesn't know anything about
I see him at more public, I see him at more community events than I see most people.
Yeah.
Rena.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Just thank you. It's a
thanks.
great idea.
And seriously, this conversation doesn't have to end here. You guys all email me, call, text me, and if you have ideas throughout, feel free to shoot them my way. I'd love to try to incorporate them as best I can. And at the same time, too, if you guys want to, if you're not involved in any sessions or anything, feel free to stop by. Just because you're not, a student or a ambassador to be. Feel free to come and check it out. See, I'd always love feedback from anybody about how to improve any type of program or service that we're offering on the communication and engagement side.
Well, I'd like to go, to them, but the one thing I believe that if council members go, I don't think that they should take an active part in this, because they don't want to dominate anything, or they don't want to take anything away. Let the professional staff people do it, and we just sit and listen too. Because once we start getting into it, believe me, it'll be out of your control. So we should, if we plan to go, just keep quiet.
And these are 2 considerations that are way too in the weeds for council, but they're just, and I'm sure you guys are thinking about this, but when a new program starts, thinking about evaluation, like a pre and post and and it could be really simple, what should we do differently? Or it could be 3 questions, or just to help tweak and fine tune.
Yep.
And then a really intentional, which I know you do this already, but an intentional outreach plan and, open to everyone, but maybe we're really looking for new, folks that aren't already engaged, and how do we hit the different parts of the community, and
Yep.
those things just help for success.
Absolutely.
This is really exciting. I can't wait.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The other thing too, it'd be nice if, let's say we're done with community development and people still have questions, if they can just jot them down and then give them to you. And maybe next time around, we can just have a response.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be encouraging it, all the presenters too, because more than likely they will be directors, to provide their contact information at the end, because they're, just as probably much more capable of answering those questions as I am. And once again, it's building that relationship. If someone feels that they're, or wants to have conversations about if their neighbor's fence is too close to someone else's, that, it's linking them up with people that's appropriate to have that conversation with. As I said, showing that we're there to help. My, as I said, I don't offer, I think I offer some good communication services for the city, but I don't build a lot of widgets. I don't, do a lot of those ordinance-based things. I think you finding those connections and things just as important, if not more important than any answers I would provide. But absolutely, anyone, you guys know me, I answer questions that are well outside my realm all the time, and I'm always happy to do it, but trying to link them up with the people that can do it the best. Plus trying to take away as many of those layers of government as possible because, we get a bad rap for, I had to get transferred 25 times. And I'm like, no, let's just cut to the chase.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Yep, you can always reach
Good
out to me.
plan.
Thanks,
And with
guys.
that, we will end our study session. Thank you.